We found out off the back because Eric went in there under an alias. And our homegirl worked at the hospital and told us, like, Eazy is in here. They saying he got AIDS. We couldn't say nothing. We upset. We rushed to Cedars-Sinai. It seemed like when Eric stopped coming to the label and he distanced his relation with Elliott, less than 90 days, his health just decreased. The records that went was I Belong to You and Romeo and Juliet, which was a back-to-back. He dropped Rome 6 months later, Romeo and Juliet. So I went in as a writer.
So when you heard the narrative of Eazy-E's death, what initially came to your mind? Did you think it was a hit? What did you think?
I thought it was definitely a hit on Eric because I mean, I've went through so many losses and trauma and I'm strong and I've survived these things, but that was like heartbreaking because we knew of Magic Johnson, Liberace, we knew of all these people with this virus, HIV, AIDS. All of a sudden, they're like, well, Eric is full blown. Where did this terminology come from? Who's ever had full blown? How was it that he regularly went to his doctors? We all knew Eric had bronchitis, so he wasn't good with dairy products. But he wasn't a person who didn't have medical insurance. He wasn't a person who would not go seek a doctor. And for something to be diagnosed as full blown AIDS, which I've never heard the terminology again. I mean, I used to research and look it up, and it just
Ain't
was like
nobody died no
it
full
was.
blown
It
out
was
of
like an
nowhere.
AI feature before the AI even existed. It was just through there, a word. So I just couldn't understand it. And health wise, I know he went to New York. He didn't wear a coat, caused him to have a cold that went into pneumonia. He had a problem with bronchitis. But that was a way of saying AIDS, immune system. I feel like he was definitely exposed to the virus if that was his natural cause of death. I don't feel like he contracted it through any sexual matter. I think the breakup between Jerry Heller, Eric started seeing things different. To whereas I felt like if Cube and Dre would have stuck it out longer than the years, 2 or 3 years with the NWA, they would have been the biggest, the best, and it just would have really been Ruthless. It wouldn't even been other labels. You wouldn't have had a choice but to be with Ruthless Records. So once Eric, Ruthless was fresh. Once he started going through the books, realizing, hey, this don't look right. Heller's in Hawaii, and this money is over here, and it seemed like when Eric stopped coming to the label and he distanced his relation with Heller, less than 90 days, his health just decreased. So getting that phone call, we had a homegirl, Hershana. She worked at Cedars-Sinai. We found out off the back because Eric went in there under an alias. And our homegirl worked at the hospital and told us, like, Eazy is in here. They saying he got AIDS. We couldn't say nothing. We upset. We rushed to Cedars-Sinai. The security guard wasn't letting everybody in. That was a no-go. Was not letting everybody in. I'm heartbroken. Outlaws, Tupac. It was just a whole bunch of people that couldn't believe that Eazy was in there going through this.
Tupac was at the hospital
I
too?
believe Tupac. I believe the Outlaws. I mean, I just remember a slew of rappers and people and fans, and I want to say now I did smoke a lot of weed, but I wonder it was either Edie, I mean Outlaw, somebody was up there. It was just artists, fans pouring out support, and I was destined. Like, I don't give a damn about this alleged. He not married. Like, he didn't ever want to get married. I was very outspoken. I was busting through the security. And I was able to get past and get in that hospital room. And by me seeing Eric, I mean, they rushed me out. But he was in a coma. Eric was as black as my outfit. Like, he was extremely dark. He had tubes coming up his nose, and it was just like, Eric, are you leaving us? Like, it's not real. It was an emotional thing because that was my escape from the ghetto. Eric exposed us to Calabasas, Woodland Hills. Those were places that our friends growing up never even heard of. They never been to Magic Mountain. They never did these things. So like I felt like we were all robbed and we were treated of greatness, but we were also blessed to even be a part of that era because Eric was genuine. Eric helped everybody around him. If you had a situation, he definitely gave you the support that you needed.
You said something that just hit my ear. You said that Eazy-E never wanted to get married.
He never.
So when you seen Tamika did the whole marriage thing at the hospital, what did you feel about that?
I felt that that was like a hoax. Like it was pre written, it was premeditated, it was a plan. Because Eric, he would always joke around and stuff. And so one day we were all in the studio and Yella's like, hey, Sylk, would you ever get with Eric? And I'm like, man, that's my bro. I said, but after we make all this money and Ruthless is all the way on top, booming, who knows? He might be my husband. So, Yella, we'd always make those little jokes. And I'd say, we got a platinum record coming. I might be Miss Right one day, all fun and jokes. Never did I feel like he hit on me. However, a lot of women would throw themselves on Eric. Eric was a man, so I mean, he had women, but I don't think it was this unprotected sex where he was just this nympho because he really didn't have time to lay up like that. Eric had so much things going on, so many groups, Gangsta Drace, the BG Knockout, Above the Law, At Band Clan, which ended up being Black Eyed Peas. He had an ear and an eye for talent. Eric definitely could pick some good talent.
So, all right, and you leave Ruthless.
Well, we didn't leave Ruthless. After Eric passed away, things weren't moving. Tamika could never direct our group. We know the image that Easy had for us. But she was kind of connected with this Motown and she tried to change the status of Ruthless Records. She wanted us to be more radio. She wanted to try to do something that Eric didn't agree to. We were handpicked, we were laced by Eric, and we wanted to keep our image. So the group thing didn't work. She had like a personal issue with Diamond for some reason, and she called Big Chan and myself to a meeting. And there was a couple of the label people that were still left, Mike Klein, and I think Heller was still a part of the label because after Easy died, everything wasn't final. So she offered Chan, Big Chan, and myself a deal. And we like that's foul. Like we're not gonna leave our group members just so it'll be Chan and Sylk. That's not the vision. We were a 4-girl group. If we're not doing 4 girls, then we just not gonna do it. So to me, the label folded because Ruthless didn't, they tried, I think, to do an Above the Law album. They did a Bone project. Nothing had the success of Ruthless Records. So, like I said back then, and I say it today, if that was a marriage, that was the marriage that killed Ruthless Records.
Wow. So now, How long did it take for you to get from Ruthless to Grand Jury?
Eazy-E left 1995. 1996, I was brought to Mike Conception, Grand Jury Entertainment.
And Grand Jury Entertainment is owned by Mike Conception.
Yes, at the time.
And what other groups was on Grand Jury?
Grand Jury Entertainment had did We're All in the Same Gang, which was a nonprofit project. So the artist just donated. So he worked with Brownstone, his producers did some tracks with Brownstone. I think he had production on Teddy Riley. He had some type of little connection through MC Hammer, which, I mean, there's a story on YouTube when they told the story on how Hammer met Mike Conception. So that's not part of my history. However, I was around Hammer during the short-lived period that I worked with Grand Jury Entertainment.
What's the story about MC Hammer and Mike?
They have some stories on YouTube how MC Hammer wasn't a punk. Like people thought because he wore the baggy clothes and was dancing, but MC Hammer was a little gangster too. So there was a situation where Mike Conception was trying to get in touch with Hammer, and he sent his boys over there and was like, "Yeah, we gotta protect you, cause da 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 da. The people trying to get you, whatever." So Hammer was like, "Who the fuck you talking to? Like, I don't need protection. Like, yeah, you're not gonna do what you think you're gonna do." So I mean, it's the industry of, it's the game that they play on the West Coast. It's a lot. It's like I'm not gonna get into other people open cases and things that just happens on the West Coast, but it's a game of extortion, and it's been happening out here. It's been a divide and conquer. It's been it's been, and like the things that I've been exposed to. And I could always remember I didn't understand it back then because I'm 25. I'm young. I have a baby. Like I left my baby's father and now I'm a single mother. So I really didn't want to do rap. You know what I mean? I had worked with Eazy-E. I met Tupac before Eazy-E. We'll get into the Pac situation, but losing some valuable players, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just be a writer. I had lost the passion a little bit to want to be an artist, to want to be a performer, because I knew the history of successful artists was having a strong backing. Like Yo-Yo wouldn't have been Yo-Yo without Ice Cube pushing her and doing the records with Yo-Yo. And then Rage, if it wasn't Death Row pushing and her being amongst all the fellas. If it wasn't Sylk-E Fyne with the Eazy-E project and features with Tupac, and I felt like I had protection, security, like I was a part of something. So losing them, it just made me like, I'm going to be a writer. I don't want to do the artist thing. I want to be on the production side. So I knew my conception because my aunt, grew up in the hundreds. My granddaddy's house, 110th and Western. So back then, my aunt ran with Tookie Williams. I meant to bring the picture of me about 4 or 5 years old, and my aunt, and then Tookie was holding me, and I was about 4 or 5 years old. So, my aunt really ran with the Retta boys, and she was always classy and fly, and she had that gangster mentality. However, she was successful. As she grew older, she became a psychiatrist, blah, blah, blah. Good stock. So I knew Mike Conception as a little girl. He would be at my grandfather's house because my Aunt Shay kind of hung around the same type people. So someone was like, well, Mike has a, entertainment company and he looking for somebody to write for his artists. Ain't misbehaving. So I was like, yeah, Mike knew me when I was growing up. That's like an uncle to me. You know what I'm saying? That's big bro. That's like an uncle. So I went over there to grand jury, and I take that back. Skirt, rewind. That's not how it happened. How it happened is Mike Conception called our group. This was after Eazy-E died. He called GBM. He was working on a soundtrack, and I cannot remember the song. But Chan, the group, T-Ski, me, and Diamond, we went in there and we recorded a song that was, it was, oh, he told us that he was going to place us on Set It Off soundtrack. So we went into Michael's studio in Carson. We laid a bad record. It was similar to This Is a Raid. Everybody get down, but hey, shout out to the 5-footers. But we recorded a record that was based on bank robberies because he told us we were going to do this Set It Off soundtrack. We recorded the record. He never got us on the soundtrack. It was just like, so he started playing a divide and conquer game. He like, yeah, Sylk, well, you know, you an excellent writer. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to work with all the girls because it's a lot going and da 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 da. And you know, I didn't see it like, you know, he's not accepting a group. I saw it like, well, if you're not gonna do our whole record as a group, then we're not gonna do nothing. So he's like, but you're dope. You a writer. I got this artist, so won't you come over here and work with her? So we were thinking that our record GBM was gonna come out on the Set It Off soundtrack. It never happened. But I did go in as a writer for Ain't Misbehaving. So I did Romeo and Juliet. Black Chill had already had the hook, and her lyrics, they just wasn't cut. I can remember a bar when I got there, tenderizing, mesmerizing. It just didn't have a good flow. So I did the dummy vocals. Since the first time I saw you, I knew I was attracted. I laid the dummy vocals. Ain't Misbehave went on top, but she couldn't deliver it. I didn't know that Mike Conception played the record for people that were up in RCA. Because at the time, he was working with Rome, the artist R&B Rome. And he had a couple of more acts. He had Black Chill before me, which Chill was through MCA Records. But the record really didn't go. The records that went was I Belong to You and Romeo and Juliet, which was a back-to-back. He dropped Rome 6 months later, Romeo and Juliet. So I went in as a writer. I never was going to be the artist. So at the time, he's trying to get his distribution deals with RCA. He sent in the record with my vocals. RCA liked my vocals. Next thing I know, Mike is like, well, Ain't Misbehave is not working out. And you know, it was a big old thing. It was like I walked into drama. It felt like I was taking her place. You know, not like I wanted that position. I wanted to write. I wanted to be a part of Grand Jury production as a writer. I didn't want to be an artist. So anyway, so he sends my stuff to RCA. He calls me back to Carson. He like, hey, Sylk, I got to fly you to New York. They want to meet you. And I'm like, but this record is for Misbehave. He's like, well, they can't. She can't develop. She can't demonstrate the record. She can't deliver it like you. They like your vocals. They like your tone. They want to meet you in person. Flew me to New York. So at this time, I'm like, you know what? RCA Records, you know, this might be my second calling. So I went out there, I rapped live in front of I can't even remember all the people's name. They gonna kill me. But I rapped live. Next thing you know, I got back home from New York, and Mike was like, you gonna be with Grand Jury. You gonna be with the production company. I'm like, okay, so we gotta get our writing stuff together. I came in as a writer. I came in as a publisher. I signed an agreement, not a record deal, because he signed a deal with RCA. I never put any ink to anything with RCA. I signed an agreement with Mike Conception that clearly I didn't sign it for 20 years, a lifetime. Because if you notice, my record dropped in 1998. By 1999, I had moved on doing features with Snoop Dogg. So how is it that my publishing wasn't issued to me on my album with Grand Jury Entertainment, but I was able to go get on Snoop Dogg records, No Limit Records. I got all my credit. So if you owned my publishing last year, why you didn't go snatch it when I did the You Got Beef? I wish you wouldn't trust me so much. The features, why you didn't go snatch the publishing? So that was a short-lived career. I did great things. I hit the Billboard chart. I was flown to New York because I won Writer of the Year with ASCAP. Like, how do I get acknowledged, but I don't get my publishing?
Wow. Wow. How much did that song generate?
Oh boy, millions, millions. It had so many, like, it hit gold the first 2 weeks of the record. It hit gold. So once again, I'm like, this is the beginning of my career. I was a great artist. Mike, one thing he did teach me was isolation sometime is the best way to success. But I didn't know it was a motive behind the isolation. He separated me from my friends. He didn't want me to hang with Diamond. He didn't want me to hang with T-Ski. He didn't want me to hang with Keita Rock. That was like a bodyguard to me because Eazy-E has died. Now I'm the artist. I'm not just the writer, publisher. I'm the artist performing. So I kept Keita Rock around me, the homeboy Keita Rock, free him. But so he didn't like that. So Mike, he moved me to a beach house, Manhattan Beach, in which I wrote my whole album in 6 days. I did get a peaceful environment. You know, Mike had some good traits, but when the deal went down and I start questioning about where's my money, and it was like, well, we have to recoup and we shot your video and your makeup. We all know the game. The label, the production company, they recoup whatever they put into you. I'm like, okay. Now, 2 weeks later, I'm on the Billboard chart. I'm not really knowing that these records is moving units. We didn't have streaming back then. It was physical record sales. And I was just fresh from leaving Easy, in which I didn't have enough time to learn it all, but I was smart enough to know I need my publishing, I need my writers. Oh yeah, we got you, you're good. I just thought it was all loyal. I never betrayed Grand Jury Entertainment. I didn't sabotage them until later when I knew I wasn't getting no money. Um, I attempted to get legal action against them. Back then, the end of the 90s, people were intimidated. Lawyers didn't want to fight that battle. Lawyers didn't want to go up against grand jury at the time. So I kind of just dealt with more heartbreak. It was a great time of my life. LL Cool J, he sat me down. I'll never forget. He was like, that label ain't good for you. You need to break away from them. And I didn't understand it. Then when I found out that LL initiated me to be on this tour, so I was with Nicole Ray, Missy Elliott, Next, LL Cool J. So they're giving me grand jury. They're giving me 15,000, but it would always be a check written out to me from somebody else. So basically, I was getting 10,000, 15,000 a show, in which money never made me, I made money. I would take out of that 10, 5,000. I would pay my alleged manager, Fred. I would pay Black Chill. And I would pay another guy, Billy Johnson, supposed to be a road manager. And then I would throw the little homie Rollo 1,000. So by the time I split up my 10 or my 15, I'm leaving with like 8,000. Once I get back home, here, mama, here go 1,000. I've never been materialistic. I've always been the material. So I was given. But LL pulled me to the side like, save your money, break away from that camp.
Man.
I'm like, well, shit, I'm a giver. I'm making a little money. He like, a little, you getting 40 bands a show. They was cutting me off my show money by 20,000. So once I would never get the check from the production company of these tours, I would get it through a personal check, Grand Jury Entertainment,
Oh, so
through
you was getting 40 grand a show and they only giving you 10,
15,
15.
10.
Wow.
So that was heartbreaking, you know, and they say, well, show money is your money. Nobody's supposed to interfere with that. So I'm just like, man, I lost the person that really believed in me. And uh, uh, dealing with Fred, it was like Mike set me up to be with the guy, Fred, who acted as my manager. He was illiterate. He used to carry Mike Conception on his back. And he ended up, right at the end of my record deal, he ended up going to jail for being accused of raping a high school student from Inglewood High. This was after my record blew up on the Billboard chart. He's traveling everywhere with me as my management, and I'm dealing with a nut who was just a rapist. Like, the truth is the truth. And I'm going to continue to tell the truth. And anything that was a part of my life and my history that I survived, ain't nobody mad but the devil, because the truth hurt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you've been through some drama.